Mr. President of the Senate. I am Senator George Thompson Sekibo. I represent the Rivers East Central District. Mr. President, I rise to second the motion as moved by Senator Gershom Bassey, my colleague and brother. Mr. President, the motion has two legs. The first leg of the motion is the astronomical increase, the rise in airfares in Nigeria. Even though what the motion is looking at is maintenance of roads. Mr. President, I'm a regular traveler. I fly twice every week. And when I check the bill of what I pay in a month, it's really astronomical. Prices of airfares have gone so high, despite their failures in performing very well. And I am sure it may be due to the rise in increase in petroleum product. It is doing in that way. We have to do something so that those Nigerians who love to travel by air can still commute and do their businesses. Mr. President, the other leg, if the airfare is too much, I can decide to go by road to wherever I'm going to. But there are dangers. There are few Nigerian roads, if there are any, that are very smooth for a drive. Order. You cannot drive from here to River State, Port Harcourt, where I come from, without several hiccups. A journey that normally takes us, when I was in the House of Reps and my fellow in the Senate, 6 to 7 hours. These days will take you, even if you leave by 5 a.m. in the morning, we are not sure if you can be arriving by 5 p.m. in the evening. That is what we suffer. In those days, I prefer to move by road so that I can see the countryside. But now there's no countryside to see because the roads are terribly bad. Now, bad roads also ensure hoodlums to carry out all kinds of negative things. When they are breaking down because of a deep pothole, kidnappers can come just from nowhere. When they are breaking because of a pothole or bad road, armed robbers can appear from nowhere. When they are stopping because of a bad road, assassins and murderers can just come out from anywhere. So we have the danger. Now the airfare is too high. We can't fly in the air. The roads are terribly bad. We can't move on the roads. That will affect the economy of the nation because it is by movement people do their negotiations, their business talks and all that. If we don't have opportunity to move from one point to another point, then that's a major problem. Now, if the law has made the law that establishes FERMA has made a provision in section 14 that 5% user charge on pump prices be deducted for FERMA. And this money is being deducted from the date of the law. And it has risen to 850 billion. Mr. President, that is big money. That is very, very big money. Who is in charge that has refused to release this money? The federal government has signed to this law, and then there's a debt, an humongous debt of 850 billion. So I think it's a very straight motion. Mr. President, please join the Inter-Senate and appeal to the federal government to release this money. Even if they cannot release all of it, let them release part of it. Because they are taking this 5% charge. They are taking it. Why do you take it and use it for something else? You take it for a purpose, for a particular agency, and then you are using it for something else, or you are storing it. Why are you storing it? Why do we need to put this money other than saving on it? So, Mr. President, I think it's a very straightforward motion. I pray that the Senate approve this motion, and then we also make some extra effort to reach out to the presidency and ask about this money. Where is it located? Why can't it be released for the maintenance of these works? so that FERMA can do our work very well. On this note, Mr. President, I sincerely second the motion as it's read. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Budget. Senate is further concerned that the sum of about 850 billion naira that has accrued to FERMA by virtue of the 5% user charge on pump price of petrol, diesel, and the international vehicle transit charges provided for in Section 14 of the FERMA Act of 2007 is still being owed FERMA by the federal government. Worried that the humongous debt owed FERMA by the federal government has hampered the effective discharge of FERMA's primary responsibility of road maintenance and rehabilitation. Accordingly, this Senate resolves to 1. As a matter of urgency, declare a state of emergency on national roads in Nigeria. 2. Call on the federal government to immediately make good its indebtedness to FERMA in order to enable the agency carry out its primary responsibility of rehabilitating federal roads, especially in the face of the astronomical increase in airfares. I so move, Mr. President.
By my colleague and brother, and to also point out that the reasons given for this price increase, I don't think is tenable, Mr. President. Mr. President, we are witnessing in Nigeria possibly the fastest growth in the aviation industry since flying started in this country. Everywhere you go, I understand there are now over 30 prospective AOC licenses being processed by FAN for new airlines into the country. And this includes airlines that are coming in as completely foreign airlines looking for partners. And this is because of the growth of the market, Mr. President. Apart from the bad roads, which Senator Sichibo said, I think the biggest factor that's driving people towards airlines is insecurity on our roads. And it has created a very, very vibrant market. So much so, Mr. President, that we're seeing brand new aircraft being brought into Nigeria by these airlines. Brand new. In fact, Nigeria is ranked now as possibly, if you look at what Airfare has done with their new aircraft, possibly the first set of that type of aircraft to operate in Africa. We're seeing, state-owned airlines like Ibom Air bringing in brand new Airbus aircraft. What it tells you, Mr. President, is that even the international aircraft leasing agencies are looking at the industry in Nigeria and beginning to give credit to this airline.
So, but that's good. That's good news now, right?
When this administration has actually removed duties on aircraft, I don't think it's tenable, Mr. President. Yes, we need to encourage the airline industry, but we can't do that at the detriment of passengers. The industry is thriving despite COVID, despite all these restrictions. So for them to now come and begin to say, oh, their profits are being affected and we need to increase, so I think we need to have a look, Mr. President, and I suggest that maybe a committee of the Senate be set up to look at those indices and report back to the Senate so that we can begin, because this is the beginning. In another 2 months, they will bring another excuse, and because you are forced to fly, there's absolutely nothing you can do but continuing to pay. And to pay for services that are not improving, Mr. President. When we see the number of delays and so on and so forth, we look at aircraft now, they actually have to go and bring in wet lease aircraft. Aero contractors, you see them flying aircraft with other logos because they have to quickly bring them in to meet the demand. So I think, Mr. President, I don't think it's tenable, and we need to have a look at the industry indices and arrive at a proper perspective so that we can save passengers from these astronomical fees that are being charged. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
It's thriving because we now have a lot of these brand new aircrafts coming into the country. So the only challenge we have right now, the problem we have, the complaints we have, is that the charges are too high. But the more the competition, the better the prospects that prices will go down. Is that correct? Okay. Yeah. It's clear that you're on top of it. Or we'll ask that you expedite it and bring the report before the Senate for early consideration. Thank you. Having said that, we will now proceed now to look at the two prayers. Prayer 1. 1. As a matter of urgency, declare a state of emergency on the nation's federal roads. Those in favor of prayer 1 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 2. Call on the federal government to immediately make good its indebtedness to FERMA in order to enable the agency carry out its primary responsibility of rehabilitating federal roads, especially in the face of the astronomical increase in airfares. This, of course, is subject to the outcome of the report that will come from the Senate leader and his committee. So, would you want to step this down, or you want to speak to this? Yes, Senator Bassey.
Do you want me to amend it or to step it down?
Suggest you amend it in light of the briefing that is said. Yes.
Subject to the outcome of the Senate report on funding of road rehabilitation in Nigeria. I so amend.
You second, right? Those in favor of this second prayer as amended say aye, and those against say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
You, Urogide, I represent Edo South Central District. Mr. President, first let me give commendation to our colleague, Senator Bassey Gershom, that came up with this motion. Mr. President, you remember that in the 8th Senate, this issue of astronomical hike in airfares came up, and we tried to adduce different reasons. We know that it has gone from bad to worse in the face of present-day realities. Mr. President, as at that time, some of the reasons that were adduced were these arbitrariness in taxes and levies that are attached to tickets, both the tickets for domestic routes and international routes. We found out that somebody that was going to fly from Accra to London or from Accra to Johannesburg was a lot cheaper than somebody flying from Lagos to London or from Lagos to Johannesburg. Again, our domestic routes, we found out that 50% of the charges or the value of the airfare to fly from Abuja to Lagos, 50% of what you pay as airfare were charges and taxes. And these taxes even went up to the issue of trolley and all of that. And the Senate, the 8th Senate that time, came up and said that anyone that has to render such services, since 1,000 naira was being charged per ticket, there was no need for anybody to pay for trolley services in our local airports. But looking at it, we know prices are ruled by market forces of demand and supply. Today, aviation fuel, insecurity, our deployable roads, they have all now contributed to the fact that everybody wants to be in the air. Everyone wants to go from one destination to the other, by flying. If you go to our airports now, virtually everybody wants to fly because the roads are insecure, the roads are bad. Mr. President, I want to draw your attention, particularly to the Benin Sapele Wari road. You have been going on that road, and you know how bad it is at different spots. At Orogo in Benin, at Ologbo, Sapele, and so on before you get to Wari. Till date, nothing has been done. FERMA, that is charged with the responsibility of maintaining our roads, cannot do it because they don't have the funds to do it. So I think we just have to address these issues. Only last week, 2 communities along that road wrote to me and told me that I should go and do everything so that that road can be passed. The state governments, you know it, to the federal roads within their domain, they are equally handicapped because of lack of funds to be able to maintain these roads. And when they are maintained, federal government that is supposed to do a refund to them, they don't do that. So you find out that Nigerians are the ones that suffer in all these circumstances. So bringing this into the fore is just to remind us again that the Senate and indeed National Assembly, we should do everything possible for the executive to act in a manner that will lessen the hardship of Nigerians. All of us cannot fly. It is a good thing, just like Senator Adeja said. Other airlines are coming in, having different plate numbers on the aircraft. You can see that a lot of foreigners are coming in, or foreign airlines are coming in. But that, again, is only making the services available, but it is not diminishing, the cost. So I think it is more on the part of government to be able to put the policies in place that can guarantee better life, abundant life for our people. The roads have to be fixed. Issue of security has to be attended to, and then of course all these arbitrary taxes, everybody just coming in. You pay this tax, you pay this tax. If you go and take a costly look at it, 50% of our airfares are unnecessary charges. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Has been very, very good in making reimbursements to states that use their resources to fix what is otherwise federal roads. So I'm not so sure about that position just canvassed. Not too long ago, if my memory serves me right, close to almost 80 billion thereabout, was refunded to the River State government, by the President Muhammadu Buhari administration. So I think this government has been very, very proactive, and helpful, in cooperating with the state governments to effect repairs, on those roads. Having said that, let me call on Senator Alero, please.
I remain Mohammed Adamu Alero, representing Kebbi Central. Mr. President, I rise to lend my support to this motion heavily moved by my good friend, Senator Bassey. In doing so, Mr. President, we should also look at the efforts being made by the federal government to reconstruct and rehabilitate the roads in the country. Only of recent, the NNPC has come out with a tax credit of over 621 billion naira, which will be used to rehabilitate the dilapidated roads we have in the country. And this is just first phase. And now they want to take the second phase, which may also cost more than the first phase. Virtually all roads in the country will be rehabilitated by the federal government under the current tax credit scheme. In addition to this, Mr. President, we also have to understand the efforts being made by the Federal Ministry of Works to generate or to get funds to rehabilitate the bad roads we have. About 2 weeks ago, a check of 210 billion naira was given to the Federal Ministry of Works by DMO, Debt Management Office. It's meant for the rehabilitation and reconstruction of bad roads in the country. And we also have presidential initiative on infrastructure, which is currently being headed by the president himself, because the coordination is done in the villa. This initiative is responsible for the rehabilitation of Lagos Ibadan Expressway, which is almost 75% complete state. We have Abuja, Kaduna, Zaria, Kano Road, which is costing the country almost 800 billion naira. And we also have the second Niger Bridge. And all these are being done by federal government. And yes, I agree that some roads are bad, but the picture being painted by my colleagues as if the Ministry of Works is not doing anything, if the federal government is not doing anything. I think we are spending huge amount of money in rehabilitating our roads in the country, much more than any other government. So, yes, on the issue of rise of airfare, Mr. President, we have to consider the fact that the exchange rate has gone up from 150 to 485. Now to buy $1, because you can't buy it at an official rate. You have to buy it at 570. And aviation, 90% of it is funded, by foreign exchange. But we don't manufacture spare parts. We don't manufacture the aircraft. So obviously, if you buy exchange rate at black market, definitely you have to recover the cost. And that's why the airfare is going up. And I agree with the fact that there is so much pressure on the airline, and we need more competition. And that's why we welcome the idea of having national carrier, even though it has a lot of problems. It has a lot of teething problems, and we hope those problems will be addressed before the takeoff. So, Mr. President, we have to also understand that the 850 billion naira meant for FERMA, being held by federal government, should be released. I associate myself with that call, and we should exert our influence and make sure that that money is released to FERMA so that they will complement whatever the Federal Minister of Works and Housing is doing to rehabilitate our roads in the country. Mr. President, with this few remarks, I lend my thank you.
Contribution from Senator Ekunife, and then we'll move on.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator Uche Lilian Ekunife. I come from Anambra State. I represent Anambra Central. Mr. President, I want to commend Senator Gershom for bringing up this motion. Mr. President, this motion is in 3 parts. Number 1 is the increase in the airfare. Second is the road network, the bad road network. And third one is the money being owed FERMA by federal government. On the airfare, Mr. President, prices of goods and services are being determined by supply and demand. There is basically nothing we can do to reduce the cost of airfare in this country except to put our roads together and encourage competition in the aviation industry. Without doing the necessary things, it will be difficult for prices of airfare to come down. We have come from different states in this country, and we know the condition of our roads. Mr. President, with the conditions of Nigerian roads, the increase in the airfare will continue to even increase more than what it is now. The roads are just in a very bad shape. Apart from the bad road network, how about the security? I used to travel by road, but now I can't even go by road. For you to travel from Abuja to Anambra State, you spend about 10 hours, 12 hours on the road. This is a journey that will take you about 5 hours. Then how about the tax collectors on the road? The disparity in the tax and the duplication of taxes. Different state governments will stop the travelers to collect one tax or the other, or one levy or the other. And that, of course, either delays the transportation business or even increases the fare of transportation. And many of the people that used to go by roads don't travel by roads anymore. They rather take go by air. And in going by air, that also increases the airfare. Talking about 850 billion being owed FERMA, I don't see why a critical agency like FERMA should be owed by federal government. Maintenance of the road.
Which agency of government is responsible for that deduction? Do you know? Yeah, who is withholding that? PPRA. Okay.
Possible to enable FERMA put our roads together. If the road construction, if the road network in Nigeria is not passable, there's not much we can do as senators. So all we need to do is to urge the executive to release the money to FERMA, let them go and fix Nigerian roads. Our roads are in very, very bad shape. And we need to take this as seriously as we have to. He called for for state of emergency. We have to call for state of emergency on the maintenance of Nigerian roads. And this is the time for us to do that. Thank you.
Sir, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, on the directives of the Senate,
we convened a meeting of the FERMA committee with the Ministry of Works, with the Director General FERMA, and also with the midstream, downstream petroleum authority, who are concerned with the implementation of the FERMA Act, would provide for 5% tax on petroleum products, so that in order to fund FERMA. We sat at the first meeting, and from what we are getting, it became very, very clear that the intendment of that act of the National Assembly has not been implemented. It appeared that the PPRA template, even though it contains that element in the rendition, no effort was made actually to make the deductions that were required from the petroleum pricing template. So at this point, we asked the authority to go and provide some records and explain the reasons why some of these things have not been done. We are now at the point of waiting to examine those records to find out what exactly had taken place and why the act has not been implemented in total. Now, on the basis of that, there are certain agencies that we need also call after getting the facts from the Petroleum Authority. We have now got to get to the Accountant General of the Federation and all the other people who have the responsibility of ensuring that the provisions of the Act are implemented. Now, on the basis of our future trajectory of our work, we are going to get to the bottom of this issue. And the report that we are going to submit to this distinguished chamber will give us a direction and an explanation as to what had happened and what we think should be done for the future. But in fact, the most important thing is that we have to realize that the law of the land is the law of the land. Failure to implement the law is not an excuse. But also we have to look at the practicality of the issues that we have faced and then make recommendation as to the direction that will go to secure funding for FERMA to implement the maintenance of federal roads. Because as he has said, or as Senator Eleru has said in his submission, the federal government is still building roads. There are a lot of investment going on in the road infrastructure. If we do not provide a system of maintenance as an economy, we are in trouble. Whatever road we build, if we don't provide for systemic maintenance, not as a culture, but as an economy, then we are in trouble. We are also expecting FERMA also to streamline its own operational modalities so that they take the issue of maintenance as a fundamental part and parcel of the development process when we are building infrastructure. So our work is ongoing, and I hope that by the time we are able to conclude it, very soon, as soon as possible, we'll make a presentation to the Senate to clarify some of the issues that are involved. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Leader. It's clear that you're on top of it. All we ask that you expedite it and bring the report before the Senate for early consideration. Thank you. Having said that, we'll now proceed now to look at the two prayers. Prayer 1. 1. As a matter of urgency, declare a state of emergency on the nation's federal roads. Those in favor of prayer 1 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 2. Call on the federal government to immediately make good its indebtedness to FERMA in order to enable the agency to carry out its primary responsibility of rehabilitating federal roads, especially in the face of the astronomical increase in airfares. This, of course, is subject to the outcome of the report that will come from the Senate leader and his committee. So would you want to step this down or you want to speak to this? Yes. Senator Bassey.